Okay, this is course review number 2. So again, all of these questions are on my website as a PDF, and I would strongly recommend you go and try them all first. The video today is just going to be solutions. If I can get it right in the right spot here, it would probably help. There, that's better. They're not lessons. You may have to go back to other videos to get the full lessons, but I'll give you a quick roundup of each question. Okay, a new surfboard is on sale for 30% off the regular price of $820. What is the final price I have to pay before I can go surfing? And we'll say in Ontario there's an HST of 13%. So if you remember 30% off, so we're going to have our regular price, which is $820. We need to determine our discount, which is 30% of that $820. So we can go, we can do this the short way. 0.3, which is the same as 30%, but expressed as a decimal. If we multiply those together, we get 246. Now this is the discount. This isn't the new price. So our sales price is the $820 original price minus the $246 discount. So if we take those and we subtract, we get a new sales price of $574. Now we also want to include the sales tax of 13%. That 13%, we could express it as a decimal. We're going to multiply by the sales price, and we're going to get a new or another value of $74.62. The final price is going to be the 574 plus the sales tax for a grand total of $648.62. Okay, so keep track of where you're subtracting and where you're adding. So you're subtracting the discount, you're adding the tax. I find it very helpful to make little notes to myself to remind myself what each line is and what the values are. All right, let's go to the next one. A traffic monitoring station counted 200 cars, 158 trucks, and 530 SUVs went through an intersection. Okay, so we have 200 cars, 158 trucks, 530 SUVs went through the intersection. What percent was trucks? Okay, so when we look at this, we have 158 trucks. So that has to be 158 out of something. Well, the something is the total number of vehicles that went through. So if we add up the 200, the 158, and the 530, we'll get a decimal, and then if we multiply that by 100, we will get our value. So we'll do 158 divided by, and we'll add up all of those terms on the bottom. And we should get, and then times it by 100, and we should be at 17.8%. Cool. So it's a matter of noticing that this total is the sum or the combination of all of the vehicles that went through the intersection. That's an important piece. Okay, find the equation of the line that is perpendicular to 2x plus y equals negative 9 and has the same x-intercept as y equals 5x minus 20. Okay, so to find the equation of the line, we know we need a slope and we need a point, any point. There's a key connector word here, and the word is and. So before and, you'll find some important information. So perpendicular to this line. Well, that's slope information, because perpendicular deals with slope. And then has the same x-intercept as this line. That's point information. Okay, so you can find those pieces buried within this question. So if we start with 2x plus y equals -9. If I rearrange that, there's the equation I'm supposed to be perpendicular to. That has a slope of -2 over 1. So the slope that I'm going to use for my question, I have to be perpendicular to that, so that becomes 1 over 2. For the point information, I have the same x-intercept. So if I want to find x-intercepts, I'm going to set my y value to 0, and then I'm going to take that equation they gave me. This is a y here, not an x, this is a y. So I'm going to put a 0 in here for my x-intercept. I'm going to rearrange the equation, and I'm going to come up with x equals 4, or the coordinate 4, 0. Okay, so now I have the two pieces of information I need. Let's clean this up a little bit. So to find the equation of a line, I need a slope and a point. Well, I now have both of the pieces I need. So now I'm just going to do the quick algebra solution. So let's do it in purple. So y equals mx plus b. Substitute in my slope. Substitute in my point. Solve for b. And then rewrite the final equation. And that line there should be perpendicular to the original and have the same x-intercept as the second question. Okay, so if we wanted to do a little test, you could put a 0 or put a 4 in here and it would balance that equation. So anyways, you get the idea. So the key of this is that this word right here, and, is the separator of two pieces of information. So you can look for information before and information after. That will help you find these two pieces. Okay. A line passes through A and B. What is the equation of the line? Okay, so you'll notice we've done this one a couple times now. This is a big idea we want to keep track of. So we need y equals mx plus b. So we start with, write the equation. We need our slope, so I may have to pop over here and do a quick slope calculation. So I want my y's on top. I want my x's below the proper y. -9 minus -4. So -24 over 6. So -4 is my slope. So I substitute in the -4. Now I need to go after the b value, so it doesn't matter. I'm going to choose the second point. So I substitute in the second point. And I solve for b. So I'm going to add 8 to both sides. And then my final answer is bring it all together. Oops, pen stopped working there. There we are. So -4x minus 7, that's the right-hand side of the equation. Find the missing angle at x. Okay, now this is exterior angles, so all of these on the outside. If you were to pick those all up, let's just bring them all over here. We'd have to rotate that guy a little bit. There we are. You would see those three angles should all make 360 degrees. That's one option we could look at. Let's also do it with triangles. It's probably the more regular way. So if we looked at this top 112, we would find the supplementary angle there to be 68. The supplementary angle here would be 60. Those two pieces, let's call a question mark in here. So we would have question mark plus 60 plus 68 equals 180. So question mark should be 52, I think. Just do a quick double check. 52. So if this is 52, then the supplementary angle for x plus 52 equals 180, and then x would equal 128 degrees. I don't actually, the more I look at it, I would probably avoid the external angles because I don't think they're set up rightly. I need to draw it a little bit better. No, they might work. I think they would work. Let's test it while we're here, just for kicks. Sometimes when you look at these pictures, it isn't always easy to see. No, it works. Second guess myself for no reason. Yep, 360. So these three angles here, as previously stated, it looked a little confusing when I was turning my head to try and see the angles, but all three of those together should make a nice 360 degrees. There we are. And it's okay to sometimes double check and doubt. That's what happens. It's part of the process. Fill in the missing values. What is the initial value? So when we look at this table here, we have to fill in some missing things. So it looks like there's a pattern in the x column that this would be 1 and this would be a 0, which makes sense. We need to know what that word initial is. Okay, so that initial means y-intercept. So right away that piece we can actually grab pretty quickly. So that's 0, 9. And now we just have to figure out how these move in the y column. So you have a difference of 4 between 9 and 13, and you have to do that with 2 jumps. Okay, so if both jumps were 2, 9 plus 2 is 11, 11 plus 2 is 13. If that's going to be a linear relationship, we have to jump 2 more times. And if we keep following, this would be 15, and then 15 plus 2 would be 17. Okay, so it's just piecing together, making some of those connections on how the patterns behave. Okay, which of the following are linear relations? Y equals 3x. Linear, for sure. That's a direct variation. So that one's should be getting easier to recognize. 4x plus y equals 9. That is also linear. It's just not in our traditional y equals mx plus b format. This one, y equals 4x squared plus 6. This is not linear. Okay, and it's not linear. We can see it very quickly because of that squared term. And then the last one, y squared equals 5x minus 3. That is not linear because of the squared term on the y. Expand. So we're going to multiply this out with distributive property. Now we have to be very careful because we have multiplication of powers, we have some adding of powers, and we've got to keep all the rules straight. So it's not a bad idea to sometimes write out a little extra. There's the first terms multiplied together. There's the second piece. And there's the third. Okay, and then we just clean those up. So 2 times 5 is 10. X cubed times x squared is x to the 5th. Plus 2 times 2 is 4. X cubed times x, if you have to, put a little 1 on that x, becomes x to the 4th. And then lastly, 2 times negative 8 is negative 16. X cubed, there are no other x's, so it just stays in x cubed. So please notice, when we multiplied, the exponents changed. We cannot add these together because they are not like terms. Determine the perimeter and area. Okay, so this is a right triangle, so right away I'm thinking Pythagorean theorem. To find both the perimeter and the area, I'm going to need to know what x is. So I'll start with a leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. I find it advantage to label those things. So my 2 legs are connected to the 90 degrees. So I'm going to put my x in here, squared plus 14 squared equals 32 squared. It's always a good idea to evaluate those squared terms, and just like such. Okay, and now we want the x squared term by itself, so we're going to subtract 196 from both sides. And then we are left with x squared equals 828. And to undo a squared term, we're going to square root both sides. And we get x equals 28.8. If I write that down, do a quick check. Is my leg smaller than my hypotenuse? Yes, it is, so that's a reasonable answer. Okay, find the initial value, also called a y-intercept, flat fee, starting value for the following. Bob earned $160 for 8 hours day work. He's paid $9 an hour. Okay, so we might find it really helpful to organize some of this into a table. Okay, you may not have to. It's just one of those things that's very handy to have. Okay, you could do something like that, and then Bob's got 8 hours of work, and he's paid $160. Okay, now if he's paid $9 an hour, so if he worked one more hour, he would get $169. But we can also work that backwards, and we could fill these in working backwards. Come on, pen. There we are. Until we get all the way to 0. That's one option. Okay, we could also jump in with our algebra solution. If we did something like our equations, finding the equations of lines, if we put in our slope, which is the $9, okay, we could use this coordinate right here and just solve for the b term. That would be an alternate way of solving the problem. Both would be correct, just different. Okay, so 160 minus the 72, I get $88. And that would be the initial or flat fee that Bob earns. Now if we kept going over here, you could work your way all the way back and you should come up with $88 here. The following square and triangle have the same perimeter. Oops, I better go back to that. I didn't finish this one. I jumped ahead, I was too excited. Okay, so we have our x. Let's go back and finish this question. We need perimeter and area. So if this is 28.8, perimeter would be the adding up of the three sides. $14 plus 32 plus 28.8. So 74.8 meters for perimeter. And then area, that would be 1/2 the base times the height. Oops, let's try this again. 0.5 times 28.8 times 14 would be 201.6 square meters. Okay, my apologies for skipping that. Okay, let's jump to the second last one, last question. The following square and triangle have the same perimeter. Determine x. So if they have the same perimeter, that means this length here and this length here have got to be equal. Okay, so what we can do is we can find the perimeter here of this square. There are 4 2x plus 3's added together. And over here, the perimeter of the triangle would be 2 groups of 4x minus 1 plus 2x. So that's just adding up those sides. I'm taking advantage of the repetition for the multiplication. If we set those equal to each other, because the perimeters have to be the same, we can say the square is equal to the triangle. And now we have an algebraic expression in terms of just x. We can now solve this, or we can distribute the 4 if we like, distribute the 2. There are other ways to approach the algebra, but I'm going to do it this way because it's what most people would do. Okay, now I have to collect like terms. So if I subtract 8x from both sides, lo and behold, they cancel. That's a nice move. Okay, so my x's are all alone on the right hand side. I'm now going to add 2 to both sides. So now I have 14 equals 2x, and then I'm going to finish with divide both sides by 2, and I get x equals 7. So if we pop back up to the top and we put a 7 in here, this would become 14 plus 7 is 17. So you would have 4 groups of 17, which would be total of 40. We have a perimeter of 68. Okay, and if we put a 7 up here, this would be 28, this would be 27 on this side, 27 on this side, and 14 on this side. That's, again, a total of 68. Cool. I hope that helped. Thanks for tuning in.